Welcome to my podcast, Unstoppable by Minal and Bharwaney. I am an author, business coach, private tutor, energy healer, and clairvoyant. My next guest, Ruchi OM, founder of The Mind Talk, a mental well-being coach, speaker who is passionate about destigmatizing mental health and normalizing conversations around it. She has launched Hong Kong's only mental health magazine that aims to create a community through support, information, evidence-based articles, and narratives of lived experiences. Thank you, Ruchi, for coming on my show today. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's been taken forever for us to get together, isn't it?
I know, and it's so interesting the way we met. It's so fun getting to know a bit about you and finally talking to you today. I feel so glad and I'm so grateful. So thank you for that. Can you tell me, what is your definition of toxic people? Have you come across any?
We meet all sorts of people throughout our lives, right? And yes, I have had my share of toxic people. Toxic people are people who kind of drain your energy. And the reason that happens is because they can be lacking in empathy. They could be self-centered or they could be manipulative. And when they bring all these character traits to the table, we are often confused about where we are headed in a conversation or a relationship or a contract with them.
So true, because so often that we may even meet new people and then something may happen which can cause them to be toxic to us. So that is very interesting that can happen in our lives. Even when we didn't realize it can happen, it still is happening all the time in our life. How would you deal with a toxic person? What are some of the things you may have implemented or you may have put into practice yourself?
Dealing with anyone, right? It's never about the other person. It is about you. First of all, how did you end up becoming so close to someone who is manipulative or does not bring empathy to the table the way probably you bring it, right? So it is important to check internally. What is the reason that I've allowed this kind of behavior in my life? Because the toxicity does not happen at the word go. It takes a little time. Sometimes it happens in half an hour, or sometimes it takes time for you to realize, hang on, wait a minute, I'm in a toxic relationship. What were your needs that you needed to meet where you allowed such a person to come who manipulated you? The way I deal with any relationship is regular check-ins with myself. What am I bringing to the table? Are my needs met? Am I bringing the person to the table that the opposite person wants? What does the person want from me? And am I able to give that to them? And to be completely honest and genuine about it, there is a little bit of this where you should be comfortable with also not having that person in your life, if the need be. It doesn't have to come from a place of resentment, but a place of compassion that I'm not the person that you are probably looking for, and you're not the person who could probably satisfy my needs. Or maybe you coexist, but these are my boundaries, and I'm going to stay with my boundaries for my well-being.
Yes, boundaries are quite important because maybe that person is not as empathic. Maybe they've gone off the charts. You could have agreed to disagree, but maybe they're on an extreme place where their mind is somewhat offset, right? Cannot change their mind. That is some great tips for sharing. Thank you for that. What are some of the red flags? I know you've talked about a few main red flags, because there could be many red flags.
Something that I always consider is the biggest red flag, which we let go, is gossiping. It's like a very simple thing and we could get pulled into it. But I strongly believe that incessant gossiping about someone else who's not present is a big red flag, something which I'm not too comfortable with. I tend to usually quiet down and detach myself from the person. It actually, I'm not saying that I don't gossip or I never gossiped. I did that too. And I used to do that quite a lot, but that was because I was dealing with my insecurities and I had not come to terms with that. Gossiping was a way to protect myself. But then when I did work on myself, I didn't feel the need to gossip anymore. Also, with my spiritual practice, I prefer not to gossip. I do believe it hampers my personal growth.
Yes, thank you for sharing because that's so deep. Sometimes gossip is half assumption because you didn't ask the person directly. Sometimes it's three people in the situation and the other person is completely full of gossip, not even in the situation themselves, but they put themselves in the middle just to be the start of the gossip chain. Yes, sometimes insecurity can be shown, and sometimes we're not even sure that they're insecure, but it comes out in a different form. Maybe high ego, maybe gossiping, like you said, creating drama. Sometimes that is obvious in one's life, and sometimes it takes a while to figure them out.
Because it's important to understand that all of these traits, gossiping or manipulation, all of this is a protection, is the person protecting themselves, right? It's a kind of a protection. When I did work on myself, caused me, in fact, towards this field of mental well-being. When I worked on myself, I realized how deep these things go, but we just look at it as just gossiping. It was fun manipulating. It's not that, it's more than that. It's we are building a wall around ourselves using these tactics, and these are unhealthy tactics, unhelpful tactics. But at the same time, it is also difficult to be straight and authentic because you have to bring your entire self to the table, even the vulnerable bit.
Very true. So often when we gossip, we don't think how much it can hurt the other person or the cause. We always might forget karma is in play. And that can cause even triple pain than what we thought was something innocent. Speaking of mindset, how did you change your mindset about this? Maybe gossiping, or how did you change your mindset about being around less toxic people?
Instead of talking about someone else, I'll just talk about me because I did have toxic traits in me. It's not that I didn't. And I worked on myself, a lot of journaling, working with a coach, with a therapist, accepting my broken bit, knowing where my vulnerabilities lie, and just moving forward. And I'm a big champion for personal growth and development. That's one of the biggest green flags for me in a person, because that means that person is willing to look inward and say, okay, that needs changing. And then what steps do I need to take to change that? Big kudos to a person who is into personal growth and development. It requires that kind of an attitude to bring a change in the mindset. But yes, definitely introspection, sitting with your unhelpful feelings, all of that helps with the mindset change.
I like how you said green flags instead of red flags, because my other question would have been, what are some of the red flags in toxic people? Sometimes it's so simple to see, sometimes it takes unraveling. I like that how you changed it to focus on the green flags in a person who's willing to make some changes in themselves. That is great.
Thank you.
So often we notice that there may be flaws with other people, but we don't have to point it out right away, right? We can just encourage them to work on it.
We can look outward, we can look at other people, all that we want. That does not help us. What helps us is us stepping out of our comfort zone, working on ourselves, and seeing how I can be the best possible green flag in my life. If you're a green flag in your life, you'd be a green flag in someone else's life too.
Yes, encouraging them to be more green flags. I like that. We should do that more often.
Thank you.
Are you a type of person who might change their mind often depending on the situation? Or are you the type to maybe analyze it first? I might be asking someone's point of view to understand what this person really means, because sometimes I think this person is one way, but they're actually another way. And it's not that they're lying about themselves, it's more like, what do they really mean when they tell me something? Back to the question, do you often change your mindset, or do you just focus on what you plan? As in, okay, you set your mind to this and you go for it in terms of you and yourself, the way you think.
What I do mean a lot is I work with values. What are my values? When we start something and if we are collaborating with someone, we do end up taking a lot of suggestions. I don't mind changing the plan. What I'm not comfortable compromising with are my values, because my values identify me. I'm absolutely fine with being flexible, although not with my values. And having said that, if I don't have my values in place, then who really am I?
Values plays an important part because I guess it keeps you focused in one way, and then you know who you are, so you can operate on that authentic self.
For me, my values are authenticity and kindness and compassion. What values do you go with, Minal? I'm really curious to know.
Empathy, sometimes setting boundaries just because I have put them in place recently. And I wish I knew it and implemented it. It would be much easier in my life if I did that. I also like the fact that to have compassion with ourselves, because I never thought of that or saw it that way. It was more that you have to treat yourself very good. And I would always put like a facade, like it's like you have that sort of reflector when you go to sometimes the beach, you can reflect the sun, right? If you always reflect to help other people, sometimes you need to help yourself first. Then you can give others power as well. I really like that.
I'm going to bring your attention to 2 points that you mentioned here. First, about compassion to self, that self-compassion. In my opinion, a person who is compassionate towards themselves is genuinely compassionate towards others. Otherwise, it might be learned compassion. And that's from my observation and experience, the 45 years that I've walked planet Earth. And what you spoke about setting boundaries, I think along with a lot of wellness topics, it's important that children are taught these in schools, because these are life skills. And these life skills help them in resiliency. And we don't get these things taught in school. So I wish schools made this kind of a change where they talk about a lot of practical things like boundary settings. There's a lot of discussion around building resiliency. But how does one build resiliency? What does acceptance mean? What does setting boundaries mean? I think all of that is such important topics to be studied from a very young age. And I try and teach my children that and hopefully setting in somewhere.
I think more schools can have some sort of role play in assemblies. My previous school, I found out that most of my students were more boys than girls. And I was always fascinated because I would always seem to have to help the boys more. And I was confused. Okay, there's days when I hardly help the girls. They don't need that much help. But I found out one of the students, he was so sensitive and I didn't know. So I didn't know at his age he couldn't tie his shoelace. And that's fine. And it happens, right? And so I told him nicely, do you need help? Let me help you. And then he started crying after some time. So I said, okay, I cannot take it personally because I just met him. And then he's not the type to talk. So he may be an introvert. Then he's a very sensitive child. Then I understood him a bit better. Then he actually started looking at me in the eye. He started saying good morning. He started understanding that there are some days he had some piano class or another music class. To spend that time with a child who might need more presence to be noticed, it is very valuable. He himself started making more friends in the classroom. That was really valuable to him. I wish more schools would do that. How would you deal with a negative mindset? Let's give you an example. Let's say your morning is going well and then you have your day plan, but let's say suddenly you have no internet, your computer is not working, you have 3 meetings. How would you suddenly deal with a negative mindset or a negative turnout?
I am a human. The attitude is that of frustration. Because
Right.
if I have things lined up and things are not working, there's panic, there's frustration. Thankfully, my meditation practice has helped me a lot in calming down. That is not to say that I'm devoid of all negative thoughts or unwanted thoughts and feelings. They're definitely there, but I bounce back faster than what I did before. While there is that panic and frustration might last for 30 seconds, and then I'm like, it's time for me to have a good time or do something where I don't need my laptop or the internet connection. Just chilling out at home or doing something else. Okay, then that was the plan for today. There's a lot of emphasis on finishing your to-do list and getting on with the day. We forget to just go with the flow. So I think that's what my meditation practice and my mental well-being coaching and all has taught me, to just be in the flow.
Did you have any friend or someone who you came across as always negative? Did they happen to affect you? And what have you learned from them, if ever?
All of these experiences, they are childhood conditioning. They are belief systems that we have developed about the world around us based on our experiences at a very, very young age. If someone is very negative, and it's not my responsibility to change the world, but I am here if someone needs me, and I'd be happy to help them. I'd be happy to walk with them on their journey. Let me put it like that. I cannot do the walk for them. It's them that they have to work on themselves if they want to change the attitude.
Yes, I really like that because sometimes people might want the help, then they might not be sure, they might be insecure. And then it's nice to walk alongside them, hold their hand for a while, and let's see what their journey entails, and that there is support out there if they really need.
Yes, unless someone wants to make the change, you can't really get them to make the change, and you can't make the change for them. In the Hindu spirituality, once the student is ready, the guru appears. It's the same thing. Once you're ready to make the necessary changes, focus on personal development, things just align themselves. You'll meet the right people. You'll go a little bit back and forth, but you'll definitely be steady on the path.
Yes, so true. What does simplicity mean to you?
Simplicity is being comfortable with your whole self. That's really simple. And when that's simplicity to me, that's not simple, but that's simplicity to me. And once you're comfortable with your whole self, you don't require armor. You don't require any more facades. You just come with your whole self. And that's simplicity. And you get to see me as a whole. And I'm comfortable with that.
The freedom to be yourself as a whole, no matter.
It's not simple, but it's simplicity.
Have you ever attended some talks on simplicity or heard it from maybe a quote or some book? Was your experience with simplicity?
I haven't particularly read anything on simplicity, but I'll tell you the book that changed my life. There were actually two books. One is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck and The Courage to be Disliked.
Oh, both equally amazing titles. Yeah.
Really, really strong books and a very strong message. I would say an uncomfortable message at times,
Mhm.
but a beneficial message nonetheless.
Do you have a favorite quote or message from each of them that resonates with you at the moment, or something that stands out?
I will give you the message that resonates with me from Courage to be Disliked. We create situations in our life which will go ahead and reinforce our beliefs. It's a very strong message because then it allows us to go back to the drawing board, take a stock of your decisions and see how your decisions hampered you. Life is going to happen. Life happens to everyone, whether you are a saint or whether you're a regular person. And when you bring your complete self, when you bring your simplicity to it, it does make it easier.
Speaking of beliefs, do you have any beliefs related to simplicity or something that has a belief that has stuck with you that has made your life easier?
I will tell you this. When I stopped caring about everything is when I really started to care about things that mattered. I don't know if that makes sense. But when I stopped caring about what people will think, how will I be perceived? Am I bringing the image of me that I want to show to the world? When I stopped caring about all of that, I was able to focus my attention on things that I really care about, and that's mental health, setting up my company, setting up my business, all of that.
Can you tell us what made you start your mental health business?
I was in therapy for 2 years, and that changed my perspective. And I'll tell you why I went into therapy, because I was talking to my sister. My daughter was a teenager then. It was getting really difficult getting along with her. And I said to my sister, she needs to go into therapy. And my sister said to me, you need therapy. I'll take it on. And I went into intense therapy. And it was actually me. I realized that when you work on the roots, the leaves and the fruits and the flowers are going to be beautiful anyway. That changed my relationship with my children. My relationship with them is flourishing now. And I realized how much mental health impacts us on a day-to-day level. And we don't even realize that we are struggling until things are too late sometimes. That is why the venture of setting up and working in this field.
They say is always the hardest because it's the most change, it's the biggest push. It's like out of your comfort zone. You don't know what will happen, fear of the future, and just fear in general.
Like every day, I think, I don't know what I'm doing, but something happens and I take a step forward, and sometimes I'm just standing there. And as I said, the human part of me just wakes up and there's frustration and panic, but I'm able to go back to calming myself down and, focusing on what the day is meant to be.
Yes, so many tools that you have learned and that you put into practice daily. So that will help with your belief system and empower you more with your values. That you work on yourself every single day. What would be something that if you could give advice? So say you are going to give a talk in a school to the students from primary to secondary as well.
Understand what your values are. And instead of working towards your goal, remind yourself that I'm working with the values I have. So if your value is perseverance, then don't focus on the goal that you have to reach. Ask yourself, do I bring perseverance every day? And the level of that perseverance might be different every day. Some days it might be 100%, and some days it might be 50%. But for that day, the 50% is also 100% because you showed up. Work with your values instead of goals. We all have goals and we'll reach the goals. But what's important is not to lose sight of the value.
So often we can get overwhelmed or excited with a goal. And then when we reach the goal, suddenly our whole persona may change. But we forget our values, right? We are basic human values, love and strength, compassion, those things. So that is great to always hold our values within us instead of just reaching for our goals each and every time and forgetting who we are.
In
So
fact,
that-
I'll give you an example that happened with me. Last year, I was captain of Division 4 ladies daily tennis team, and I was practicing 5 to 6 hours every day. I was doing 5 to 6 hours of tennis plus 1 hour of strength training because I really wanted to win my division and move up. Then a month before the season started, I injured my knee, and I was advised not to play for 8 months. So basically, I couldn't play for the whole season. In that time, I felt so hopeless, and I gave up on my diet. I gave up on my exercise, and I ended up gaining weight. It was only now that I realized that I forgot the value. There was a goal, definitely, but I forgot the value that is mine, right? That is perseverance, hard work, dedication, discipline. As soon as I missed my goal, the values became unimportant to me. I have not been trained to work with my values. Had I said 8 months of physio, 8 months of strength training for my knee, 8 months of discipline and diet, and I can get back to tennis. And when I do, we'll see what to do. I'm back to tennis. I'm playing equally as good as I was playing before I got injured. But now I've gained weight because I lost sight of my values. And that is why values are so important.
Yes, thank you for sharing that example. It makes so much sense because now I can see the connection so clearly. And so often we lose sight, as we say, our goals, but we forget that we lose sight of our values. So that is something that we should hold more and give more importance to in our daily life.
Absolutely.
How would you go about telling someone who maybe has lost their self-confidence in their self, say they had a fitness goal, and then say that maybe they got injured, like you said, you got injured. How would you put affirmations? Would you also remind them to set their values? How would you empower them and encourage them not to do same?
I'm going to get a lot of negative flack for this, but I'm
Okay.
someone who does not believe in affirmations because it reminds me of everything that I don't have. For example, if my affirmation is, I am going to be successful, it reminds me I'm not successful today or I am successful. That's how affirmations work for me. So, what I like to do is going back to the goal. I wanted to lose weight, I lost track, and that's fine. My goal is to lose, say, 10 kgs. What are the values am I working with to reach that goal? I'm working with discipline. I'm working with self-compassion because with weight loss, it has been my observation that people tend to gain weight, especially women, because they've gone through something. It could be something physical or emotional. So it's important to practice self-compassion. You're doing well. And some days might not be your best days. So write down all the values that you use to initially set that goal and then keep coming back to those values. I got off the bandwagon for a week. I lost track for a week. No problem. I'm going to show compassion because obviously I was going through something then. So if I've lost track for a week, I'm not going to push myself to come back 100% today, but I'm going to make one change for the next week and I'll stick to that change. And maybe I'll just stick to that change for 2 weeks because that's easier for me. That's what I can handle today.
The perfect role model.
And when we put those kind of expectations on ourselves, that's a lot of pressure to deal with. So we are not sorted, and it's okay to be not be sorted. We need help.
Yes.
We need compassion from within to say, I can only do this much. I can't do this much by myself. So I'm going to ask for a friend to see if she can help me stay accountable.
Right. I love accountability. It is such a strong and powerful word. And I feel that more people should be talking about it. So hopefully it will be in your magazine soon and more things to come. Yes. I love reading about topics that make people maybe go out of their comfort zone, think more, take accountability. Sometimes I feel like people who may give advice, like it's not necessarily advice. I feel like sometimes they are mirroring something that they want to change in themselves and they're just telling us to do it first. And what is it? Fear, insecurity, not taking accountability, and then maybe telling themselves that they're perfect, but they haven't fallen off the bandwagon. So I really like that word accountability that you said.
In
Yes.
fact, I'm not a big fan of advice because how much do I really know about somebody's life to give advice? How can I experience their emotional processes before giving them advice? What I can do is I can hold the space. I'm not in a position to give advice to anyone. I can hold the space. We all have our answers within us. We just are too scared to reach those answers sometimes. Then when you work with a coach or a therapist or a counselor, what they do is they just hold the space for you to reach that space, to reach those answers.
Holding the space is very important because it gives that person time to process, to be back to themselves, maybe untangle all the things they've been through to get back to themselves. So holding the space is very powerful for someone.
I do believe that.
Can you tell us how you thought about destigmatizing mental health and starting your mental health magazine?
So a couple of things here. So when I started my psychology course, I subscribed to a mental health magazine, and I realized the mental health magazines that are there, they're all in the West. Hong Kong does not have a mental health magazine for Hong Kong. There is a lot of information out there, which I'm not denying, but the information is very statistics driven. It's very direct. In my experience, that's not how humans learn. When I was a child, my grandmom used to tell me stories of real life women who showed resilience, courage, bravery, perseverance. And those stories stuck with me. And those stories motivated me to get to where I am today or to just live my day-to-day life. And those stories became my values. That is a different kind of education, but that is education too. And the aim of the magazine is to educate people, to motivate people through evidence-based articles written by experts in the field and through personal narratives of lived experiences. Because when you see that someone else is going through something, and if you're going through something similar, and you see that they have powered through this by taking help or what have you, it could motivate someone else to do the same. And if we can motivate one person in Hong Kong every year to take charge of their mental health and well-being, I think that is success for us.
That is a great definition of success, and that is a great way to have started your magazine because the thought process led to maintaining the values, sharing it with others, and letting others have that space for themselves to share their stories with what they went through.
In fact, the long-term aim is to create a community. We are soon going to come up with numbers or information that connects people to support groups, free to affordable support groups that people can connect to, because everyone wants help. And sometimes people don't know where to go. Hopefully, the magazine can do that for the people of Hong Kong.
That is great. Can you tell us if one was to reach out to contact you, can you share your website and email?
So the magazine website is www.themindtalk.co. So that's THEMINDTALK.co. But if you want to reach me for coaching sessions, I'm available at ruchibhave@gmail.com. That's RUCHIBHAVE@gmail.com.
Can you tell the listeners some of the coaching sessions that you have entailed? What will it require? Will it require one session, maybe 3 sessions, some customized sessions?
I do a discovery call and I work with transactional analysis as it's a psychodynamic approach, but I use it in my coaching sessions for mental fitness and well-being. And at least a minimum of 6 sessions is required because I teach these concepts to my coachees. I believe that an empowered person is someone who has the tools to use what they need to use. So it's easier for me to coach them and ask them to come week after week, month after month. And of course, they do have that access, but it's important to learn the basic concepts and know what they can do differently to help themselves.
These also face-to-face
I could do face-to-face, but I also do Zoom. I do a lot of online work actually.
Thank you for sharing. I had so much calmness, clarity, and just so much overall joy talking with you today.
Thank you so much.
I hope we meet up again for some event or workshop.